I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. I'm here to tell you about a new camera I've developed with Rotor Riot. Didn't I just do that? Didn't I just release the Rotor Riot Runcam Eagle JB Signature Edition, my favorite camera in the whole world? No, that's true, I did, but the Eagle is not everyone's favorite camera in the world. In fact, some people really hate the Eagle, so let's take a Foxeer Predator and see if we can make it just a little bit better. Stay tuned. You're looking right now at the picture from the Rotor Riot Foxeer Predator V3, and the reason we're looking through this camera instead of my normal fancy DSLR is I'm about to go outside and show you the image quality of this camera in a way that I've never been able to before, because what I have acquired is this little device, which is the first video capture card that I've found that actually does a decent job of capturing these standard definition signals from these cameras. Sorry about that. That was my phone notification, not yours. So you can see on the screen that as I move it, there's not a lot of interlacing or artifacts. And I'm finally going to be able to show you guys, this is not DVR. You're not looking at DVR right now. You're looking at, this is a, let's just say it wasn't cheap. This is a really good capture device that's doing a great job of showing you the actual picture that comes from the camera in a way that hasn't been before. So let's go outside and let's see how it looks. It's even a little bit cloudy outside for those of you who complain that I only show cameras when it's bright out. The first thing I want you to notice is that we are not having any of that awful blue color that the Predator V2, it just plagued the Predator V2. Oh, here comes the sun. See, guys, I try to do it when it's cloudy, but the sun just comes right out. Well, anyway, whatever. We're not having any of that awful blue color, and that is true both of the Rotor Riot Predator V3 and the regular Predator V3. The Rotor Riot Predator V3 has got some tweaked settings, and I'm going to walk you through how I've changed those settings to try and improve the shadow detail just a little bit. I feel like when a company like Foxeer programs the defaults on these cameras, they have to make them look like good when you look at the picture, otherwise you won't buy the camera. But we've tried to tweak these settings to be optimal for flying, and sometimes that makes them actually look a little bit worse, but it gives you more ability to fly with them. So I'm going to walk you around, and I'm going to use my fancy schmancy new capture card to show you all the, the resolution and whatnot of the camera. I've got some flight footage as well, and that's going to be DVR. But oh yeah, okay. We'll see how this ends up looking. How's the digital image noise in the gravel? The gravel really brings out that digital image noise because of the way the gravel has all kinds of fine details. You can see. Look for distortion in the lines on the shingles of the roof. Yeah, pretty good. Now I'd like to show you some actual flight footage. This is some footage that I took in my trip to Puerto Rico. This is the Fat Shark DVR, so we know that this image is not going to look as good as it looks in the goggles, and it's a wireless link, obviously, so there's going to be some breakup, but it should give you some perspective of what the camera looks like in flight. We're getting a little bit of image noise here, and I don't want you guys to blame that on the camera. This is one of my quads that I fly. It's not in perfect shape. This isn't like a setup just for the demo. This is just me actually doing some flying. So what I think you can see, though, is that the color cast is very neutral. Foxeer finally managed to fix that blue cast problem. And what I've gone for with my tune of the camera, which is what I go for every time I tune the cameras, is I've tried to increase shadow detail and decrease contrast to give you more ability to see details in shadows and less surprises of things jumping out at you. So as you look at the shadows, and this is not a very cloudy environment, but you can see the shadows like of the wind turbine. You can see that there's details in there that a higher contrast image would leave out. As for digital image noise, it's not perfect, but none of these CMOS cameras are perfect. I do feel we've reduced the sharpening just a little bit, and I do feel like we've gotten it close to perfect. Well, anyway, as good as we could get it anyway. Here's an example of some flying on a cloudier day. You can see that there's no distinct shadows. It's still, well, it's not dark exactly, but the clouds are definitely covering the sun, and you can get some perspective on how the camera handles that situation. The image definitely doesn't look showroom perfect, and that's always been my goal when tuning these cameras, is to not provide an image that looks good in a showroom. Is usually going to be a lot more contrasty and look good, but not necessarily give you the details that you need when you're flying to hit gaps and not crash into things. All right, folks, that is the Foxeer Predator V3 with the Rotor Riot custom tweaked settings. This is not the JB Signature Edition, because my favorite camera is still the Eagle, but hey, not everybody has the same taste as me, and I want to try and help everybody get the best settings they can out of their camera. So if you like the way this camera looks, if you've always liked the Foxeer Predator, but you've kind of been annoyed at the blue color cast, like I know that a lot of people feel that way, the V3 has finally fixed the blue color cast. You can consider the Predator again, and if you want to try our custom settings, you can buy the Rotor Riot Foxeer Predator, or, you know, if you already own it, I'm going to show you at the end of this video the tuning session I went through to arrive at the settings. You can just take our settings and put it on your camera. There's no hardware difference between the Rotor Riot version and the standard Foxeer version. You're just helping us out by buying the Rotor Riot version. So there you go. Link in the video description, and if you want to stick around and watch the tuning process, that's going to be at the end of this video. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what you think. Do you think we improved it? Oh, that's a dangerous question to ask, but tell me in the comments. For those of you who fly in cloudy environments, is it any good? Or is it still terrible? Well, I don't know. I don't fly in cloudy environments that much. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Happy flying. This is the camera tuning for the Predator, Rotor Riot Predator. Hey folks, Joshua from the future here. So I'm going to show you the tuning session that I did with this camera. This is just the first tuning session though. And I'm a little worried that some people are going to look at this and go, what? He flew literally one pack for 15 minutes and then that was the end of it? No, I tested these settings under various lighting conditions and other stuff for about 2 months before we gave the final go-ahead for production. I just want to show you the kind of things that I think about when I'm tuning, and the gist of it is, play with the camera settings, look at what it does to the image. Is it making the shadows brighter, the highlights brighter, the image as a whole brighter, and then tweak those things to get what you want out of the image. And the beauty is that with Betaflight's camera control feature, you can change these settings from your transmitter in the field. You don't have to have just one set of settings for every lighting condition. You can see me doing this in the video. I never picked the quad up to plug in a joystick. I'm just changing the camera settings from my transmitter. I have a video about camera control if you want to try to get that set up. Anyway, go ahead and watch this first tuning session. Enjoy. All right. So, I mean, it looks good. Let's just see what our options are for adjusting it. Picture adjust, brightness, contrast, sharpness. So what let's do is, sharpness is 160. Do we have any issues with like digital noise? And I am seeing a little bit of digital noise, like especially looking up at the trees. So let's try turning sharpness down. Okay, so with sharpness way down, let's set day night to color for sure. Yeah, we definitely want that. So now the sharpness is down and you can see less fringing on the leaves. So if we just take sharpness all the way down, what happens?
Let's take it down to like 60. Like, where does it start to get soft? See, now it's starting to look soft, isn't it? I think it is. How about the fringing on the trees, though? Fringing is less apparent. Definitely less apparent. I'm going to take it up slightly. Let's take it to 80. Let's try that again. Yeah, I like that. Still getting good detail like in the grass, but not too much noise or fringing. So now let's play with brightness and contrast. What does the brightness do if I turn it up? The highlights are becoming very blown out. The shadows are getting lighter. What does contrast do if I turn it down? See, contrast has an odd effect on these cameras. It looks like the shadows are getting darker as I turn the contrast down, which is the opposite of what I would expect. The picture appears to be getting darker as a whole. Yeah, we're definitely, the shadows are getting darker and muddier. It looks like the midtones are trending towards the shadows. If I turn contrast up, I think it was 130 is the default. Let's just turn it up and see what happens. I would expect to see the highlights get blown out. Oh, interesting. Let's turn contrast up and brightness up a little bit. The brightness up will bring out the shadow detail. I'm going to put contrast back down again. Trying not to land in the grass there. Trying to land on the tire track so I don't get in the water. It's pretty wet here. The grass is pretty moist. Let's turn the contrast back down to like 120. So the picture as a whole looks a little darker here. But I feel like we've got a little more shadow detail there. Looking under the trees as I'm about to enter them, I feel like it's pretty good. are they doing over here? I don't know. I hear some machinery. I'm gonna try turning the brightness up slightly. That's good shadow detail there under the tree. It's pretty decent here. I like that. I like that I can see under the tree. Looking over here at the shadows under the trees, I want to be able to see into that and anticipate any obstacles. It's a little dark. Yeah, but not bad. Not bad. Now, am I getting washed out in the sky because of it? And I think the answer is no. The picture as a whole looks a little bright, but I think it's very flyable. I think it's good for actual piloting. So can I turn the contrast down further? Will it get better? No, the shadows will get darker. Can I maybe counteract some of the additional brightness? Now see, the picture as a whole is getting darker now, feels like. It almost feels like contrast is adjusting the shadows a little more, and brightness is adjusting the highlights. I don't know. Let's try a little lower contrast. Picture looks a little dim, especially in the highlights. See, I think this image is not as, yeah, I don't like that as much. I'm going to bring the contrast up to 120 again. In fact, let's take it up to like 125. That's better. That's way better. So the highlights look just a little blown out, but I feel like we've really brought up the shadow detail. We've really shifted everything up. The picture as a whole looks pretty bright. So, yeah. So we're getting like some highlights. The grass looks a little brighter than it should. It's, instead of being more like mid-tones, it feels more like it's shifting towards the highlights. The sky is not blown out though. We can see lots of detail in the clouds, and especially as we look at a situation like this, as we fly into the trees, we're getting great shadow detail. So let's see if we can, maybe if we bring the brightness up even a little more, what happens? I feel like the effect is pretty exaggerated now. The image is really starting to look blown out, overexposed. I'm seeing blown out details here on the fence. The white parts of the fence are starting to look a little overexposed, and it's a little distracting. I feel like we get more shadow detail by doing that, but the rest of the image is getting kind of distracting. You can see right here, if you look at the driveway, right here, the highlights on the driveway are blown out near where the birdhouse shadow is. Yeah, see that? And as I fly closer, it sort of comes in and I get detail back there. So we've gone a little too far with the brightness. If we bring the contrast, can we adjust that with contrast? If we take the contrast up to like 130, does it fix that? I don't know. No. Nah, I don't like what we're doing here. I just don't like where we're pushing it. Now look, interestingly though, look at the shadow. And I think the sun has gone behind a cloud a little bit. We may have lost some of the shadows entirely, frankly. No, there's a shadow right there. But I think what we're doing is de-emphasizing the shadows. Unless the cloud is, we're just coming to a cloud. I don't know. No, there is shadows. Okay, so let me put it back. Picture adjust. We want brightness down to 135. Contrast down to 125. I think this is it. Okay, so this is going to be the settings. 135, 125, 80, 86 for hue. I don't have any problem with the color. How about the color gain? I mean, that's really a subjective thing. I don't think I want to mess with that. Okay, return. Exit, save. The grass already looks pretty green.
14.3 volts.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good. So, the last thing I'm going to do, is, this is the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to reset it. So, 135, 120, brightness 135, contrast 125, sharpness 80, hue 86, color gain 135. Hue and color gain should just be at default, so I'm not sure if I changed those. And we're going to reset the camera to defaults. And immediately you can see it's gotten darker. Ooh, lucky. It's gotten way darker.
14.3.
Oh yeah, no, this is much worse. Wow, this is much worse. Okay, good. I feel like I've made an improvement. Look how dark the trees are. There's like no shadow detail. The trees are completely muddy. And we're getting lots of that chroma, that magenta fringing, the chroma artifacting in the branches. Yeah, big improvement. Okay, that's what I'm going to go with.